Stefon Diggs traded from the Buffalo Bills to the Houston Texans. How does this impact the draft, the wide receiver market, Brandon Aiyuk potentially being traded or not? We've got another wide receiver prospect for the NFL draft, Javon Baker out of UCF, to break down. Niners trying to make additions for other teams' restricted free agents. A lot going on this offseason with your San Francisco 49ers. We'll get into all of it right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Crocky209. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We appreciate all of the everydayers out there, and we appreciate it when you subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, the thumbs up. And, of course, you can find us everywhere you listen to your podcasts. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. All right, Croc, a lot going on today. We got a new running back in-house, running back Patrick Taylor out of Green Bay. The 49ers are not going to add tight end Brock Wright from the Lions. The Lions have matched that offer, but first, a big move in the NFL and some ripple effects that do affect the San Francisco 49ers and the NFL draft, and that is Stefon Diggs getting traded again in April, this time going from Buffalo to the Houston Texans. DeMeco Ryans building a little beast over there in Houston. And a second-round pick in 2025 is going to Buffalo from Houston. It's actually a part of the trade that the Minnesota Vikings traded up with the Texans to get into round one. They gave them one of their second-round picks in 2025. That second-round pick from Minnesota is the one that goes to Buffalo for Stefon Diggs. A couple of day three picks on their way from Buffalo to even things out to the Houston Texans side as well. So the Texans going for a wide receiver here and a veteran wide receiver with their young wide receiver core, with their young quarterback in Stefon Diggs. First of all, Croc, what do you think about Stefon Diggs, where he's at age 30 now in the NFL, his fit with Houston? And we got to talk about how this might affect the 49ers because of the value involved in such veteran wide receiver trades.
You know what? I think a lot of people are making comparisons to Stefon Diggs, his situation, how productive he's been really throughout the years, and how his trade and what they got, where it kind of looked like they got fleeced a little bit, like a future second round pick. Who knows where Minnesota is going to be? They got that pick from Minnesota, but that's next year's pick, and then obviously some late round swaps.
It could be a good pick, actually, Croc, because the Vikings are either going to start Sam Darnold or a rookie quarterback this year. That might be pick 33 in next year's draft. So it could actually be better than the second rounder they would get from Houston in this year's class. But it's also a year later, and usually you knock down the value. So, a second rounder next year is worth a third rounder this year, all things being equal. But interesting pick that could be a big range of what that pick could be in 2025. But yeah, it's a future second.
Diggs, and when I originally read it, I didn't see the 2025 part. I just saw a second round pick. So I'm like, oh, that's a really good pick, because I think Minnesota's probably drafting really high in the second this year if they had one. I know they're one of the, they're picking high. All right, now, this is where it kind of gets a little interesting. I'm seeing social media like, this tanks the draft stock of Brandon Aiyuk, or the compensation stock, what the 49ers would get. He's not going anywhere, because if you want a first-round pick, no way you get it if the Bills just gave up Diggs for what they got. And my rebuttal to that is Stefon Diggs has been kind of this disgruntled receiver. Like, he forced his way out of Minnesota. Like, he made it very clear, like, I don't want to be here. And that was with Kirk Cousins, who is a good quarterback, works hard, like, doesn't come off as like have any kind of weirdness to him or anything like that. It's like, this is a good quarterback who Justin Jefferson has feasted with to one of the best starts in the NFL career as a receiver. And Diggs is like, not good enough for me. Get me out of here. He goes to Buffalo. Actually, a big part of turning around how Josh Allen is viewed, right? So we know this guy is really good, but then it's like you start to hear these grumblings. And he doesn't want to be there in Buffalo. He's like, nah, get me out of Buffalo. I don't want to play with Josh Allen. I don't want to play in this cold anymore. So he gets sent to Houston where they have a second-year quarterback. I'm interested to see how that whole thing works out. But you can't compare Aiyuk and Diggs because they are on two different trajectories, both terrific skill set, and they play the game very well from that standpoint. But you have one guy who has not had a contract yet, a second contract. You have no issues with him on or off the field. He actually wants to be with the 49ers, and the 49ers want him. They just have to figure out how they can make it work from a financial standpoint. And you have Diggs, who's done everything to get out of that situation, and he's 30 years old. So you got, 5-year difference there, different trajectories in their careers. I don't think you can compare what Houston gave up to what someone might have to give up. That was kind of one of my initial ways of kind of viewing the whole trade and the process of that.
Looking at the compensation, yeah, I think, and we just saw Keenan Allen, who's a great player but older, get traded for a 4th-round pick. We've seen Amari Cooper get traded for like a 5th-round pick, right? So the veteran players that are already on big contracts, you're never going to get as much as someone like Brandon Aiyuk, who's an ascending player who hasn't hit his prime yet, who still hasn't signed that big contract that you'd be trying to sign him to. If just imagine the money Brandon Aiyuk would get as a free agent. Essentially, he would make more money than Stefon Diggs would get as a free agent. He's more valuable, and he's at least worth around more in what the 49ers would be asking. So if a future second, it's at least a future first, which means it's a current first because it's going to be more than that. So I think that's first of all, it's not related, and second of all, I think it shows that Brandon Aiyuk is clearly a first-round guy if you're going to be trading for him right now. And even the Bills' first round, let's say the Bills said, okay, well, now we're going to offer pick 28 for Brandon Aiyuk. I'm not even sure that would get it done. Like John Lynch might say, cool, thank you for the offer, but that's not enough, and there was reports that the Niners asked for pick 17 and a player, Zay Jones from the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't know if those reports are accurate, but I could totally see that's what John Lynch would ask for in this case. So I don't think it is more likely, less likely than Brandon Aiyuk gets traded. I don't think it changes the market for Brandon Aiyuk and what would be asked for, what would be given up by teams. If Brandon Aiyuk gets traded, the Niners are getting a really good premium draft pick. It's a 1st-round pick. And, maybe they do the thing where they give up another pick back to the other team to make sure they get the highest pick possible now or something like that. But I just don't think it's going to happen. And I don't think anything happens with Brandon Aiyuk before the draft anyway. This is a summertime contract that the 49ers are really adept at doing.
I think the big thing that's kind of missing from the fans' perspective with a lot of this, the 49ers are not shopping Brandon Aiyuk.
They're just doing draft meetings. Brandon Aiyuk's contract, he's signed. The 49ers will be like, we'll talk about that later. You're under contract. We got draft stuff to do. The 49ers aren't worried about Brandon Aiyuk's contract right now. They might have, shared some numbers with the agent and maybe the agent will try to use the draft as leverage because, deadlines make deals sometimes. We saw this with the Debo stuff. As soon as the draft came and gone and the Niners didn't trade Debo, it was like, okay, negotiate with us or nothing else. There's no other options here. You're negotiating with us and we're going to sign you. And that's where the 49ers are at with this. So as soon as the draft goes by, then it's like, okay, let's talk about this. And then it just becomes, do you show up to training camp and OTAs without a new contract? Or are you going to play on that 5th-year option? And I still think that's probably what the conversation is going to end up being, unless a team blows away the 49ers and makes them better by trading Brandon Aiyuk. And I just don't see that happen.
A lot of the conversation I'm seeing surrounding Brandon Aiyuk in other fan bases and other people talking about what it might take from a compensation standpoint, a 2nd-round pick, a 3rd-round pick. Like, you're never going to get that trade done because the 49ers do not want to trade him. Right. If the 49ers, if we wake up tomorrow and the 49ers have traded Brandon Aiyuk, it's because it is a trade that strongly benefited them. Like, you would have to come with an offer that they just can't refuse. And then they have to start looking at it from the standpoint of, well, okay, it does help us get, cheaper here. And then we have more money on the books for this and that. And it would have to just make sense from that standpoint for the 49ers. But they're not waking up today saying, all right, okay, let's see what teams we can call to see who's maybe interested in Brandon Aiyuk. Like, that phone call is not happening. It's the other teams that may say, we need to improve our wide receiver room. We can see a scenario where the 49ers trade Brandon Aiyuk, but we are going to have to come with a great offer if they're going to move off of a guy that they do not want to move off of.
And I think a better comp for Brandon Aiyuk would be whatever happens with T. Higgins. So T. Higgins is probably not going to sign a deal, it looks like, with the Cincinnati Bengals. They got big Joe Burrow money, just like Josh Allen has big money with the Bills, and that gets pretty serious. And you already got to try to sign Jamar Chase if you're the Bengals. You're not going to be able to fit in another wide receiver. So when T. Higgins gets traded, which I think will probably happen draft day or before the draft, and I think some teams might be waiting to see how the prospects fall with wide receivers, but Carolina picked 33, the Bills at pick 28. I could see trading for someone like T. Higgins. We'll get a better idea of what the market would be for Brandon Aiyuk at that point. But at that point, the pick that you would trade for Brandon Aiyuk would have already been used. You know what I mean? So because if pick 28 happens and they trade it for, or pick 33 Carolina Panthers, they trade for T. Higgins, the pick that the Niners would have asked for has already been spent by the team they would have asked for it from, right? So, but I think if it happens before draft day, and let's say T. Higgins gets traded for pick 33, Aiyuk is more valuable than T. Higgins. Any team, the market would ask for more, then we'd know, okay, first round pick, because T. Higgins went for a high too. And so
I don't know how much more. Like T. Higgins has been very productive, and even in games when Jamar Chase wasn't playing, like Higgins took over as like a wide receiver one.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's been very productive as well. Now, I think like Brandon Aiyuk's best year is better than Higgins' best year.
Right.
But overall, without looking at anything right now, I don't have numbers in front of me. They got drafted the same year.
Mm-hmm. If
you told me different offenses, of course, but if you told me that T. Higgins has more yards and touchdowns and catches than Brandon Aiyuk, like it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, career-wise, he might, because Aiyuk started slower, but Ayuk's a better player currently and is coming off a better year. Wins on all three levels. Higgins is a good player, not a bad player at all, which is why I think he's going to get paid and get traded for. I do think Aiyuk would be the more valuable guy around the league.
All right, real quick. So T. Higgins definitely coming off of it. Now,
he was hurt.
He's coming. You said what?
He was hurt last year too. That's why.
Okay, so this makes sense. Not a great year last season, and like you said, he's hurt. Prior to that, he had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, and in his rookie year, he was primed to go over 1,000 yards, but he got hurt in the very last game, like one of the first plays of the game, and he was hot during that time. So we're talking about a guy who, prior to last season, was really hovering around 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Would I take Brandon Aiyuk over him? Like, yes, I've watched every game of Brandon Aiyuk, and I know what he brings, just not from a pure statistical standpoint, but blocking, mindset, attitude, grittiness, willingness to do whatever is needed for the team to win. Also has had an ultra productive season with 1,400 yards as a guy who we've said a lot, not featured, and an offense that isn't throwing the ball 100 times a game. So all those things to me makes him more valuable, but I am curious to know, how the league would look at that if T. Higgins wasn't competing with targets with Jamar Chase.
Next, let's talk wide receiver draft prospects. Javon Baker out of UCF. Is he a future San Francisco 49er next? Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal information. Claim as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% match on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA, available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. All right, Croc, let's get into the prospects here. This is wide receiver Javon Baker out of the University of Central Florida. He's a former Bama wide receiver, and I didn't know that at first. And you start watching him, and you're like, okay, this dude's got some juice to him. And then you realize, oh, okay, he was an Alabama recruited wide receiver. It means you were a specimen coming out of high school, and you were in demand. 6'1" and a quarter, 202 pounds. I'm not going to tell you his 40 time, Croc, because I know you like to go through the tape before you learn too much about the prospects and you don't want to color your opinions. So I want to hear your opinions on Javon Baker first, when you did put on the tape, and if you think he is a future San Francisco 49er, but before I talk about some of the other specifics about his workouts.
Well, one of the things you just mentioned was his speed, and, I did not look it up. 6'1" and a quarter or so, probably looks 6'2" in person, kind of reminds me of my size, 200 pounds. Matter of fact, it's kind of really a lot like my size.
Probably listed at 6'2" for sure. I'm sure in college. Yeah, you're going to get that bump easily.
One of the questions I had was, does he have long speed? So, and that's just from watching, when you're watching all 22 or even the YouTube cut-ups, do you see a guy, even when he's not getting the ball, separate vertically from defensive backs? Everybody wins different. So there are some guys who will win at the catch point down the field vertically, but maybe not be a speedster, right? Like we've seen that. And I think that skill set doesn't translate from a consistency standpoint as well as guys who can actually just run away from a guy. But I didn't quite see him getting on top of defensive backs vertically. So that was a question that I had. I thought he was very fluid. I thought he was twitchy. I thought he was sudden. Between watching his game film on the All 22 and then going and watching the Senior Bowl clips of what it looked like with him fighting with defensive backs, I said, man, this is a scrappy guy who understands leverage and how to set guys up. So that kind of tells me it feels like he's more of a 4-5-2 type guy. Like that, if I had to guess, that's what I would say he maybe ran in his 40.
Interesting. Okay.
What he ran?
You're way off, Croc. You're off by 0.02. It was 4.54 in the 40.
Oh, pretty close.
No, you nailed it. I mean, that's exactly it. Like, he's got ball skills. He's kind of medium height, weight, speed, but that's Kyle Shanahan's wheelhouse, right? He likes the medium-sized guys. 6'1", 202, 4.54. That's a future 49er right there before I even look at the rest of what his skill set is.
I noted that I like the pace that he runs his routes with. So I think he does a really good job of understanding how to change pace in routes. I think he gets off the ball and explodes very well, but he's still under control with everything that he does. And I have a player comp, and I don't know if this is good or bad.
Okay.
All right. But he comes off as this player. I would say he looks like he may be a little more explosive. Like, and when I say explosive, I'm not saying he's Henry Ruggs, but he just looks like he has a little bit more juice.
Mm-hmm.
But with how he moves, his height, his weight, and I'm glad you said his height and weight. I didn't know that. He reminds me a lot of Riley Ridley coming out. And I was high on Riley. I really liked Riley Ridley's game, but it was a guy where you didn't quite see things that were just like, whoa, how did he do that, right? But you saw a lot of, man, I like how he does this. I like how he does this. Man, really good job catching the ball away from his body here. Oh, man, I like how he has, like, nice settedness, especially for a guy who, it's not like he's tiny, right? Like 6'1 and a half, 202, but still able to move very fluidly and understand how to change pace, has twitch and settedness to him. But, man, there's a lot of Ridley to his game. Now, Ridley, knowing how he tested, he did not test well. Ran in the 4.6s, 30-inch vert. So we're talking about a guy who you're showing a lack of explosiveness that probably just doesn't quite typically translate to the next level. You can find a guy from LSU with Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry. You can find the Jarvis Landry that, every once in a while. But
Landry was so specific too. He's an underneath guy, slot guy all day, didn't win vertically. He had some ball skills, but even though he wasn't the biggest guy, but you saw a lack of athleticism. By the way, I think with Landry, he was injured and worked out worse than he even was athletically. And even then, you still saw some athletic limitations in the NFL that made him such a specific player. By the way, Riley Ridley, Calvin Ridley's little brother, right? For those folks who don't remember, and he washed out of the league pretty quick. But I remember you liked his tape a lot with his ability to get open and run routes. He lacked NFL juice. And I think that's the difference with Javon Baker is 4.54, which is fine, it's in the sweet spot, to be honest with you. Between 4.45 and mid 4.5s, like that's where most of the really good wide receivers in the NFL run. So it's not like he's slow at 4.5, but we see all these crazy 40 times now. 4.54 is not too slow to be a really good wide receiver and win vertically, actually, in the NFL, as long as you have the other things like ball skills. And he's got 32.25-inch arms, so he's got longer arms, so he plays to a bigger size, maybe even than 6'1". 37-inch vertical, which is something Ridley didn't have, a little more of that explosiveness to go get the football. Smooth route runner, gets open on all levels, has ball skills to finish at the catch point. Those are the things I really liked about Javon Baker. And when you see 4.54, I think he plays. If you see 6'1", 4.54, I think he plays bigger and more explosive than just medium.
And this is where the 40-yard dash comes like where it's a little overrated. Like the 40, when you run a 4.54, it's just going to cost you money. Like, it doesn't mean that people don't like you or that you're not a good football player. It's just like, well, he didn't run a 4.42, so we don't have to take him in the first round. We may not have to take him in the second round. Yeah. Okay, ran 4.54. Other teams maybe weren't off the charts. You use a receiver you can get in the third and fourth round. That's all that means. And we've seen guys, throughout the draft that play very well. Heck, we liked Dontavian Wicks. Did I say his name right?
Dontavian Wicks. Actually, that's a pretty good comp, right? For Javon Baker, Dontavian Wicks from last year's draft. We loved him. You were like, dude, I like this guy a lot. And I put it on. I was like, oh man, yeah. And he only ran like 4.57, I think. So pretty close. And he was a dude. He might be the best wide receiver in the Packers organization right now.
He started coming on. Like, you just started seeing it and starting to understand things. And those guys that, again, it maybe isn't straight line super fast, but understand pace, understands, has that body control to run his routes hard and fast. Kendrick Bourne was another guy who, he ran like 4.7, but when you watch Kendrick Bourne from that, line of scrimmage to, 16 yards, he ran his routes with good pace. And then he had the good change of direction, had a really quick, 3-cone L drill, those things that Kyle Shanahan covets and really likes. So not sure if Baker did any of those drills. A lot of guys just aren't now. Maybe they will come his pro day.
I got his combine numbers here. I'll tell you what exactly he did. Pull it up right now. So 4.54 in the 40-yard dash, 6'1.25", 202 pounds. He 32.25 arms, which is really good. 1.58 10-yard split, which is not great. 37-inch vertical, 10-1 broad jump. No agility drills.
See, 10-1 broad jump, 37-inch vert. To me, those are like, as far as like how I would like it, those are kind of like my baseline numbers from an explosive standpoint. So, okay, you didn't run a great 40, but okay, 10-1 broad jump, you're in the 10s, you pass the test there. Vertical jump, you're over 36, you pass the test there for me.
Yeah. So he
has enough athleticism at the next level, even though he's, the straight line speed wasn't quite there on film and isn't there on paper, but the other areas, not knowing his 3-cone and stuff, like how he moves and how he'll be challenged at the next level, but everything else kind of checking out for this guy to be a solid, maybe late day 2 pick.
Late day 2. Yeah, he checks the boxes. Size, not extra credit, but good size. Speed, not extra credit, but fine speed. Explosion, not extra credit, but he checks all the boxes in all these categories. Late day 3 means you're talking about
late day 2
round. Late day 2. So that means you're talking about third round, more pick 94 than pick 63 in the second round for you, Croc.
For me. Now, maybe I watch more and come around on him more, but I think that's still solid in a deep receiver class. Maybe it can kind of get him bumped up a little bit because all these other receivers are flying off the board. But what Jefferson, receiver that got drafted by the Rams, number 12 out of Florida?
Van Jefferson.
Van Jefferson.
Yeah.
In that mold.
Okay. I like that. Yeah, he was a good receiver, route runner, not dynamic as an athlete, but could get open, can make plays. Kind of dirty starter, number 2, number 3 receiver, third round guy. That all adds up. So there you go. Javon Baker, wide receiver, out of UCF, potentially a future 49er. I like that too. Not fighting to get him in the second round, still there in the third round. Absolutely. And I think day 2 is the place the Niners might be looking for another wide receiver. Niners trying to add other teams' restricted free agents. No on Brock Wright. Yes on Patrick Taylor, the running back from the Green Bay Packers next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. So you want to go catch a ball game last minute? Game Time is the place to find those tickets. Killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes all the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. I've used it to go to the ball game, and now there's going to be even more tickets to go catch my San Francisco Giants in the city any night I want. You can even get tickets up to an hour after the ball game starts. Of course, football, basketball, concerts, comedy, theater events. Find tickets for all of it. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for any of those events. And take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Today's episode is also brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. It's super easy. You see a green check mark, you know that is the right part for your vehicle. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home that W. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
Hey, Peacock.
Yeah.
So earlier in the first segment, I said, if you told me T. Higgins had more, catches, yards, and touchdowns than Brandon Aiyuk, I wouldn't be surprised. It's a clean sweep. Brandon Aiyuk over him in every single one of those categories.
Oh, really?
Brandon Aiyuk, more catches, more yards, more touchdowns by one, even more rushing yards, even more yards per catch. So it's a clean sweep for Brandon Aiyuk. I apologize. Clean sweep there. So
disrespectful, Croc. Better hair. I mean, just the list goes on for Brandon Aiyuk. T. Higgins, better downfield receiver. Like that's the one thing. That's what he is. And actually, the more that I think about it, I think I like the fit for T. Higgins and the Buffalo Bills now because they got those underneath guys. They got Khalil Shakir. They got they just drafted Dalton Kincaid, the tight end, right? That downfield threat, that vertical guy with Josh Allen in his arm. That's what they need to add. So Brian Thomas Jr. in the draft, maybe A.D. Mitchell could be that guy. If they made a swing, if they swung a deal for T. Higgins, that's a great fit there. Brandon Aiyuk, though, the better overall player, better overall receiver, more dynamic as a runner after the catch, all three levels of the field. I'm going Brandon Aiyuk all day. I like T. Higgins, though.
Tough thing for any of these guys, right? Like any receiver, coming in, especially with expectations, it's just a hard transition and just kind of slower. And it's on the team to kind of bring a guy along the best way, for him. Mm-hmm. But stepping into a situation where Josh Allen's your quarterback and the Bills have such high expectations and all of a sudden you're asked to carry this, you don't always hit the ground running. Luckily for the Kansas City Chiefs, Rashee Rice, and he's in some trouble of his own right now, but it's like, well, you got Travis Kelce to kind of hold it down until Rice starts to come along, which he did the second half of the season. But if you don't have that luxury, and Kincaid, I like him, but I didn't feel like he was someone that was like taking over games.
Yeah.
You whatever receiver goes to Buffalo, you're going to be asked to like be the guy. So that might be more of a veteran type situation. I don't know if I go to draft. I might go more T. Higgins, who understands how to play receiver at the NFL level.
By the way, and Rashee Rice just issued an apology to everybody, teammates, and saying he screwed up. Did you see the report, though? Eyewitness account that Rashee Rice's former college teammate and current 49er, Danny Gray, was with him. Did you hear that report?
So
that was just an eyewitness thing. I don't know. This wasn't like a Schefter report or anything. I don't know if there's any truth to it, but I mean, they were college teammates at SMU. So if someone's going to be hanging out, back in this happened in Dallas, right? Danny Gray, I mean, I don't know, maybe he might be in more hot water with the 49ers now, and he's already in the doghouse as it is. Didn't play even after he was healthy last year with the 49ers at the end of the season. So
you got to be smarter than that.
It's unconfirmed, so I don't know if Danny Gray was part of it, but apparently, according to some eyewitnesses, that's what they saw.
Well, they have a video of the guys walking away from the scene. Did you see the video?
Oh, well, that must be where it came from then. Yeah, and people are like, oh, that's Danny Gray, I think.
Yeah, there's a video, and the guy's like, "You're just gonna leave the car? Like, are they stolen?" Which if I see some young dudes getting out of a Lamborghini Urus and all these other cars, and they just leave the scene,
a dude who's like
you leave your car, it has plates, it's registered to you. Like
a guy who's 23 years old, like bails from a car accident in a Lamborghini, I'd be like, yeah, probably stolen.
Yeah, 100%. Like it has nothing to do with anything else other than. Like, what do you think? They're not going to know whose car this is? They're not going to know who got out. So, but I'll go back to that video and see if I spot Danny Gray.
Okay, that's where that came from. Then that's super interesting. Yeah, and hopefully that's not the case. By the way, so Patrick Taylor, running back for the Green Bay Packers, has signed a deal with the San Francisco 49ers. I think running back depth. Kick returner. He had 141 yards on 32 rushing attempts last season as the backup to Aaron Jones in Green Bay. Just bottom of the roster player. The 49ers maybe don't like the draft class at running back. They're probably want a guy who can compete as a kickoff returner as well. Just bringing in more. I don't think it means anything for anybody on the roster. I think he comes in fourth on the depth chart. He's behind Eli Mitchell. He's behind Jordan Mason. So Patrick Taylor, an addition, and the other report here in the story for the 49ers is that they will not add Brock Wright, the block first tight end from the Detroit Lions. 3 years, $12 million was the offer sheet they signed him to, and Wednesday was the deadline, and the Detroit Lions said, nope, you're not signing our guy. We are going to accept that same deal. So that offer sheet that he signed with the 49ers is now his contract with the Detroit Lions. So blocking tight end, clearly a need for the 49ers as we head toward the NFL draft.
Not just a blocking tight end. I just think a legit tight end too. We just talked about Buffalo Bills. They have Dalton Kincaid. They have another tight end, Dalton Knox or Dylan Knox.
Dawson Knox, yeah.
Dawson Knox. There we go. D Knox are where you have a nice little combination of guys there, and one guy drafted a little bit higher. And obviously I'm tight with my guy Greg Pinelli. Greg Pinelli is like brothers with Josh Allen, and Josh Allen views Kincaid as someone who's like Travis Kelce is. Like he expects like it to grow into that. Like he loves the kid. So
move him around.
Oh yeah. They love him. So 49ers right now, you have George Kittle, and he's playing well, coming off of a good year, 1,000-yard pass catcher. Obviously, he has to do a lot of blocking. I sneaky need, and we talked about this a couple of days ago. Sneaky need for the 49ers to have a legit tight end too. They have kind of searched for it. You thought maybe Jordan Reed. Are they going to have that combination of guys? But it was like they never got to really play together. It was like Jordan Reed was hurt, and then Kittle was hurt, and then Jordan Reed got hurt, and then eventually Kittle came back. So I wonder if the 49ers are telling us, and you said, well, it's going to depend on if they get this guy or not. And they did not get it. So I just watched a YouTube live of you with Graham, Brad Graham, and who else did you have on?
John Chapman.
John Chapman. Shout out to my guy, John Chapman.
Yeah.
And you guys talked a lot about offensive linemen for the 49ers. Make sure you guys subscribe to Peacock's channel. But nobody mentioned tight end. And I think when you start thinking about this and all these other positions, one position that would not be forced is taking the top tight end in the draft to be your legit tight end too, which I feel like is a dang near another starting position, almost like drafting a nickel corner who's not going to start on the outside, but like that's a starter. Tight end two for the 49ers, you likely be on the field a lot.
California native, I think he came from like Napa or something. Brock Bowers out of Georgia is the top tight end in this class. I don't think he's going to get.
Oh yeah, not get dropped. My bad, Brock Bowers again. another kind of disrespect that I've given to a player. Brock Bowers might go top 10. He is.
There's Jatavian Sanders, right, from Texas, and then Penn State guy who we drafted in our mock draft, our live mock that we did here on Locked On 49ers, who would absolutely fit from a 49ers perspective. I just don't think they want to spend a day 2 pick on a tight end again. So that's what they're trying to. Ross Dwelly's still not signed, by the way. So maybe he signs at some point in the weeks leading up to the draft too, just so they know they have a guy, then let the rookies from last year compete. But tight end right now, currently, the Niners are telling us that is a need. All right. Thanks everybody for making Locked On 49ers your first listen. Make sure you're subbed up on YouTube, everywhere you get your podcasts. Croc mentioned it. Please subscribe to my new channel, OT with BP Overtime. We go into more topics and stuff that we can't fit in here to Locked On 49ers or Peacock and Williamson. You can find Croc's podcast as well on YouTube. Eric Crocker's channel is always fun, and it's a must watch. And we'll talk to you tomorrow right here, Locked On 49ers.